This is Africa Uncensored, an organization started by Kenya's top investigative journalists who saw a gap in the investigative journalism field in the country.
So there isn't a very great number of investigative reporters going behind the news and investigating things for public interest. I think that's a crucially important part of the news cycle, because the news cycle as it is, current affairs journalism needs people who are able to take that time and be able to investigate things that are important to the public. News bulletins can cover it, and as we've seen, what tends to happen is that because people don't feel like they're getting what they need from the news, they start to tune out. And hopefully Investigate 101 creates a large enough number of people who are interested in investigating stories across the country and across the continent, that this doesn't happen, and we keep the agenda properly and squarely focused on the people.
These are some of the trainees who are undertaking a short course dubbed Investigate 101. After 2 weeks, they will come up with a documentary.
There's about 10 journalists, actually 9, are going to be split into 2 groups, and each group will receive a certain stipend of money to be able to do 1 or more investigative pieces over the next 10 weeks, the deadline being December the 9th. This we're hoping will encourage them to understand that all aspects of storytelling, not just the front of camera stuff or even the production stuff, but planning for budgets, planning against deadlines, and working around the challenges that they may have and resolving those challenges so that they're able to to push out a story.
Sometimes investigative journalists receive death threats in their field of work, but John Allen Namu says that doesn't have to cause them to abandon their careers or stop uncovering truth.
Yes, our part and parcel of this career, from time to time, you do get threatened by people who are interested in not having the spotlight shined on them, or who have done wrong. Mostly it's people who've done wrong. But what I find is that if people are threatening you and it happens consistently, then you also have to take a look at yourself. Be a bit introspective and ask about the kind of facts that you're producing for a story, for a report. Because oftentimes, if you're truthful, if you're honest, and if your facts speak for you, then those threats tend to fizzle out, as they have many times in our cases.
There has been a notion that the government of Kenya doesn't support investigative journalism, but Mr. Ogora, the director of Kenya News Agency, says that's not true.
I think that could be a more of a mispraised notion about investigative journalism in this country. But I think there is no hindrance for a Kenyan news agency or maybe a KBC journalist to do anything investigative. No, there's no restrictions.
Investigate 101 has been privileged to have Judy Aslett, an international journalist trainer, on board to help in training and shaping the next generation of investigative journalists.
Usually when we go in to train journalists, it's just for a week or maybe 2 weeks. And I think the benefit of doing this course is that we're working with you for the 2 weeks. But then when we go back to England, there's the ongoing training that goes on. We'll have to be talking to you over Skype. You can send us your work over Dropbox. And I think that is the thing that's most exciting for me, is to get that relationship going.
Personal security is another issue for journalists, especially investigative journalists in Africa.
The problem, obviously, for journalists here is that they are fighting against that background of the government forces, maybe the police even here, not wanting to have certain lines of investigation gone down. Maybe journalists here can't work with quite the anonymity that they can in places like the UK. They've got more restrictions. But that will break down, and I think the public opinion, when they actually see that journalists can do a lot of good here, things like corruption, which is very strong obviously in places like Kenya, can be tackled by journalists, and if it were the UK or maybe America that had problems such as that, it would absolutely be the journalists that would be looking into those problems and exposing them.
The Investigate 101 training has been welcomed by the participants.
I think it's quite an exciting experience. I actually never expected to learn as much as I have, because even in day one, we learned so much: how to script, how to use a camera, slightly how to edit. So it was a very exciting experience, and I'm expecting to be one of the best investigative journalists, especially to be able to tackle real issues in our country.
Nyadira Gitao for Africa Uncensored.